My name is Nuno Correia, and I'm an associate professor at Tallinn University. I would like to present our paper, Elektron, a multisensory approach to augmenting dance, combining biosignals, drawing, sound, and electrical feedback. So this paper was co-written by my colleagues Debora Souza, and also two artists in residency, and I'll explain a little bit about the artistic residency later. So Inês, Nêves, and Jaime, Lobato. So this is a residency that took place in February 2022 in Tallinn, Estonia. And you see a photo from the performance that was the outcome of the residency. So my role here was really the facilitator of the residency. Unfortunately, my co-authors are not here, but I'll do my best to represent them. So the aim of the residency was really to investigate how to augment a dance performance using a multisensory approach. And we had an open call, and these two artists, Jaime and Inês, were selected from the open call. And their approach, so we had this provocation of augmenting a dance performance with multisensoriality, and their approach was through combined video feedback, biosignal sensors, sound and haptics. So they had a big cocktail of multisensory stimuli that they proposed to use in this project. And their aim was really to communicate the dancing project as an embodied experience, really to intensify the perception of embodiment from the artists and from the dancer in particular, but also to the audience as well. So we collaborated with Inês Nêves and Jaime Lobato, as I mentioned, and the residency took place in Tallinn University and then in the performance space in Tallinn called Elektron. And I'll tease a little bit some of the outcomes of the performance. This is one of the drawings that came out of the rehearsals, actually, of the performance. And this was part of the STARTS EE project. So this is kind of a little offshoot of the STARTS EU Science, Technology and Arts program. It's a kind of a side national version of that took place in Estonia and led by Tallinn University. So I'll introduce the artists. Inês Nêves is a Portuguese slash Estonian resident performance artist who assumes artist as the core of her practice. And Jaime Lobato, seen here in the photo, is a Mexican slash Estonian resident multimedia artist, music composer, and independent researcher who uses biosignals as part of his artistic practice. So the residency took place over a period of 8 weeks, and then the performance was presented in this performance space called Elektron in Tallinn. The artists also proposed to do a spin-off installation based on the performance. And also they developed software and hardware systems to support the performance and the installation. So, as a research methodology, we asked the artists to document thoroughly their process and take notes. You see here one of the notebooks of Inês, where she extensively annotated the process, the systems they were developing, the wearable materials that they developed that I'll talk a little bit about. So this extensive documentation was part of the methodology we implemented. And also we conducted weekly or approximately weekly interviews with Inês and Jaime to assess how the process was going and to collect more data about the progress, their own self-assessment of how they were doing and how the pathways they were choosing along the way to the performance. So here you have the extremely friendly looking and very smiling duo of Inês and Jaime in our setting at Tallinn University. The work really started by finding a common ground between the two artists. They hadn't worked together prior to this residency. So they found that the relationship to movement and space and how their artworks were influenced by improvisation was a common ground they could build upon. And in particular, biosensors could bridge between their practices. So Inês more focusing on performative movement, and Jaime with a background in sound, music composition, while facilitating the communication with the audience. And here you see really their first steps with biosensors, measuring Inês in the scale of a notebook. You'll see that this scale will actually explode to a bigger frame. So here you see the bigger frame. So they set the goal of mapping the body movement energy using electromyography, so EMG sensors, to convert muscle data into sonification layers. And Inês has a background in textile art and also visual art. So she has a background in performative drawing, so this kind of action painting style of drawing where the performance also produces a drawing. So she brought that practice into play as well. So sound feedback was explored using contact microphones to record the noises of the drawing materials in the drawing surface. So this is something new in Inês' practice. But when Jaime really saw the videos of Inês' past work, he was inspired by these sounds of the drawing materials hitting the drawing surface. And so that was a real starting point. So the artist started playing with biosignals from the performance movement to modulate sound, allowing the audience to witness the embodied experience of the performer. In other words, to offer a poetic point of view of the inner bodily reactions through the manipulation of the sound. So here you see some of the kind of wearable prototypes that Inês developed to house as a casing for the sensors and also for the boards that were used to transmit the data wirelessly to Jaime's computer. So later rehearsals focused on calibrating the sensor's data acquisition and enhancing the quality of the biosignal processing. Their collaboration extended to assembling the performance hardware and fixing the data collection devices. This built upon Inês' expertise in textile design. So they were not satisfied with producing the performance. They also wanted to develop an installation. And with the installation, they wanted to have kind of an experiment or an exploration of the memory of the performance. So yes, you have the drawing that's produced by Inês as she performs as a memory, as a trace of the performance, but they wanted to augment that memory with some kind of embodied feeling of the dancer, the act of drawing. So you have this kind of static drawing, and they wanted to augment it with a time-based trace, right? So they thought of this poetic feedback loop that they could because they're capturing and measuring the energy of the muscle as the dancer/artist moves. They wanted to convey that energy back to the audience as a time-based process. So they thought of it as that they could actually output energy, this energy, to the audience. And so here you have the setup of the installation at the Elektron performance space after the performance took place. And these are two metal rods that I'll talk a little bit about what they do, and a little consent form, so if the public is electrocuted, they cannot sue us. But, no, joking. So yeah, the inspiration for this kind of haptic feedback comes from something completely novel to me. I was completely unaware of this. So Jaime, from his kind of Mexican background, he told us this story that it's a common thing or relatively common thing in Mexico that they use these kind of electric devices for fun. So you have these little toys, or whatever you want to call it. They call them toques, where you, for fun, electrocute yourself or ask your friends to a little bit of a joke, but to pass some energy to you. And actually, it's a kind of a common social pastime, apparently, that you have this device, you grab these metal rods, and you ask people to turn the knob of the electrical voltage on. So this was kind of a starting point for the installation. So the MG, Jaime hacked this device, this toques device, to receive a variable input, which was a replay of the EMG data collected, right? Actually, the data used was not from the final performance because there was a little time to pass the data and treat the data, clean the data right from the performance to the installation. This was from the last rehearsal. This was made available and the same thing with the drawing that was shown in the installation. So what lessons did the artists gain from this process? So drawing and sonification can lead to a heightened embodiment. So this is lesson one. So the multisensory approach has been successful in the artist's view to heighten the presence and bodily impression of the dancer. Jaime's design approach towards sonification of movement based on looping was tightly coupled with the process of drawing and its cumulative nature. So there was a cumulativeness of drawing and a cumulativeness of sound. So some recommendations or some important factors for sonifying drawing producing gesture. So mirror the process of drawing and its accumulation with sound. Use data from the movement itself, for example, biosignals, to affect sound. Use interesting sound production drawing materials. So this is part of Inês' research, what kind of materials would produce an interesting sound. And carefully balance these elements in order to leave space in the visual and auditory domains. So avoid oversaturation for long periods of time. And saturation can be used punctually, but avoid oversaturation. So this is what the artists view as important, right? Drawing and haptics triggering impressions from the performance. So using haptics as a tool. So the haptic element of the installation aimed to trigger in the audience impressions from the act of drawing when combined with the stimuli of viewing the resulting drawing. So this having this evocative multisensory effect, right? The piece creates an energy link between performer, muscle energy captured, and audience, muscle energy conveyed. So it's quite interesting to try out this device. You have some kind of tickling feeling in your hands that you see here being used. Then this tickling comes and varies with intensity of the data produced. So the haptic approach followed allows one to experience in deferred time a performing art piece using electrical current to convey the energy behind the movement. This, coupled with visualizing the final drawing resulting from that process, can have an evocative effect. Lesson 3, space as unifying concept in embodied multisensory work. The use of contact microphones, sound specialization, and biosensors allow the performer to sculpt sound in space with her movements. These are her words. In addition, the sound produced shaped how she drew and moved in space. And here you have a couple of images of Inês drawing and the performance in Elektron. So with the use of sensors also come challenges in performing arts. So biosignal sensors are not normally designed to be used for artistic purposes, let alone for the demands of dance performance, where you have a lot of moving and these fragile pieces being shuffled around, right? So dance creates strains in terms of noisy signals, discomfort of use, and connectivity issues. The adaptation requires skill in appropriating sensor and wearable design for performance, so filtering noise from the data and also creating wearable possibilities, right, for the sensors. I have a video to show. Maybe I'll show 1 minute of the video because we are short in time. So this was shown. This video was captured in the performance. This was still in kind of under COVID restrictions, as you see by all the mass February 2022. So you have some subtle looping and processing. The parts of the performance was around 20 minutes long. And you have Inês with these wearable bands. So there are two cameras. There was a camera outside, and Inês had a kind of a GoPro in her body, filming like the first person. So you have very kind of quieter moments and more kind of explosive moments, which is part of her own performance composition technique. And the drawing itself also conveys that, I think. Let's just see until we have a bit more of an explosive moment, which should come next, I think. And this was streamed live, so you could see there was kind of a hybrid element to this performance, that you could see it in situ, or you could see it from home as well. So here you see a more kind of explode, and you have really this looping movements that have a reflection in the sonic sphere as well. And the paper goes much more in detail on the technical side of the performance. So I'm gonna maybe switch to the last slide. I don't know if from the technical side. Okay, here we go. So in my website, nunocorreia.com, you have more information about the project, and of course you will have the paper coming shortly. Just a small announcement, also in my website, nunocorreia.com, you can, the first link you will see is something called Modena. This is a new project. We have a call for residencies of artists and dance artists and media artists, and I'm also recruiting a PhD student for this project. So please either check the website nunocorreia.com Modena, which is the first thing you will see there, or come talk to me during IZEA. I'll be around. Also email me if you'd like, nuno@tlu.e. So thank you very much. I'm not sure if there is time for questions, probably not. But